Welcome to Taking Stock. I'm Amanda Lang. Coming up in the show, it seems it's not that workers don't want jobs, it's that they want more pay than is being offered. Plus, businesses and the arts are returning to what passes for normal at this stage of a pandemic, what it means for big cities, and why quiet quitting should be on your radar. That's all ahead. First, though, for the week that was in business, it's time for the briefs. The Bank of Canada surprised no one with its 0.75% move higher this week, leaving the lending rate in Canada at its highest level in 14 years, at 3.25%. But the central bank did surprise with the bluntness of the message. Rates are still moving higher. The trick for the bank will be judging the effect of previous hikes on the economy and pausing before moving so high they choke off growth and cause a recession.
We'll be assessing just how much higher rates need to go to return inflation to target.
One reason for the central bank's confidence that rates can move higher is the labor market, which remains tight. Unemployment in Canada rose to 5.4% in August, but much of that was driven by an anticipated decline in government jobs as pandemic-related work rolls off. Private sector employment was solid and wage growth high at 5.4%. That will do little to soothe central bank fears of higher wages being locked in and keeping inflation going.
I've been expecting stronger wage growth momentum for a while. It's here, and but it's coming at a bit of an awkward time in the economic cycle because we are at a point where the bank is really doing whatever it can to bring down inflation.
And there is some fresh evidence that Canadians' finances are stretched to the limit, with credit card debt hitting its highest level since 2019. Equifax Canada says total consumer debt rose to $2.3 trillion in the 3 months ending in June, up 8% from the year before. Most of the debt Canadians carry continues to be in the form of mortgages, but rapid increases in non-mortgage debt, like credit cards and auto loans, is cause for concern as rates rise.
What we are seeing is some early indicators of some financial stress starting to come through.
A Vancouver area First Nation plans to build affordable rental housing in that city, backed by a $1.4 billion loan from the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. It's the largest loan in CMHC's history. The 6,000-unit project by the Squamish Nation will help fill supply gaps in Vancouver's housing market, though there are concerns about how the units will be priced to keep them affordable. Europeans are bracing for higher taxes and mandatory caps on electricity use in the face of soaring prices. Russia has cut off natural gas supply to Europe by shuttering its largest pipeline, the Nord Stream 1. European countries have been campaigning to stop using Russian gas, but alternate sources are hard to come by and expensive, leaving many countries staring down a cold, pricey winter and an almost certain EU-wide recession. And those are your business briefs. Well, more than 1 million jobs in Canada remain unfilled, and a lot of sectors, especially service industry businesses, can't find the workers that they need to serve their customers. It's not so much that workers are MIA, though. It's that businesses may not be offering enough pay to attract them. In fact, the gap is pretty wide. David McDonald is a senior economist with the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. David, great to have you with us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So you actually crunched the numbers on this. How big is the gap between pay that's being offered and pay that people would take and then do the job?
Yeah, so the labor force survey asked this question to people who were considered unemployed, which is to say they were seeking employment. Which sector were they seeking employment in, and what would be the minimum wage that they would accept to take employment in that sector? And then you can compare that number to the number that employers are advertising in job postings via the job vacancy and wage survey. And you can come up with an estimate of whether there are actually a shortage of workers in those sectors or whether there's a shortage of whether a shortage of wages, rather. If we take a look at, say, retail sales, for instance, the gap is about 20%. So, employers offering about 20% less than workers would take. And retail actually represents 10% of all vacant jobs. 14% of all vacant jobs are in food and accommodation. There, employers are offering $16 an hour, and workers are seeking $18 an hour. And so at present, we've got a 1-to-1 ratio, about 1 million people unemployed, about 1 million job postings. That's pretty unusual. Usually it's, pre-pandemic, it was about 6 or 7 unemployed people per job posting. Now the tables are very even between workers and employers. And so it's hard to say that there's it's hard to say that there's a job shortage when there's 1 million people unemployed in Canada. But 2/3 of job postings are actually in industries where the wages being offered are lower than what employees are looking for.
Yeah, I mean, the way the market should function, you would think, is if I'm running a restaurant and I have a wage that I'm used to paying. Pre-pandemic, I paid this wage. That's how I set it, right? That was kind of the market as I understood it. Now I have to pay more to get those same folks. Obviously, businesses are being kind of sticky about that, David. They're not rushing to raise wages. They may have to get there, or they won't have the staff they need. How quickly before they also raise prices to pay? You know, they're not going to take it out of their own pocket or go into a loss position. So does this not create an inflationary spiral that we're all fearing?
Well, of course, wage gains with the new wage data out today at 5.4% hourly wage gains in the last year. Still far below inflation. I mean, wages are not what's driving inflation. What's driving inflation is the price of gas and supply chain issues and so on. And so workers in a tight labor market have got more power, and so they are willing to shop around. You know, they don't have to fight the 6 other unemployed people to take that one job. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. A lot of these are probably pretty lousy jobs. You know, folks are advertising at or near minimum wage for a lot of these jobs. They may not be great hours, maybe overnight. There's no benefits. These aren't great jobs. And so we don't necessarily have to fill every single lousy job in the Canadian economy. You know, this is a labor market that's in workers' favor. Now, that's not to say that workers are even keeping pace with inflation. I mean, they're taking a real wage cut, and they have been for the last year and a half. But they certainly have more power than they would have 2 or 3 years ago. David, so good to have you with us. Appreciate your time. Thanks for having me. David McDonald, senior economist with the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. Coming up, fall usually means back to school and back to work. So are cities coming back to life? Stay with us.